Are you sure you're not confusing Ed Sheeran with Nickelback?
Right.
Yeah, we have a lot of we have negative feelings for Nickelback too.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not big Nickelback folk, unfortunately, but we respect it. I like to think that we respect all artists for the most part.
The opinions of Room 6 guests are not necessarily the opinions of Room 6 or musicians everywhere. Please send your email to hate to.
Send an email or a photograph.
Welcome to Room 6, the channel dedicated to local music, wherever it may be, and the people that make it, including my guests. So my guests are a songwriter-producer duo out of Chicago. They met while playing the same show in different bands, and they're known for upbeat and quirky tunes designed to hype up a party. Mrs. Bailey is out now from them. Check that out using the links down in the description. Please welcome to the channel, the Ivy Leagues. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
Hello. Thank you very much for being on the channel. And if you want to be like the Ivy Leagues, hit me up using my email address down below. Click the Room 6 social media link. That works too. And it'll tell you what I'm up to online, ways you can support the channel, like buying merch at room6.shop, and more. And what the heck, go ahead and click the like, the share, and the subscribe buttons. It all helps, and I really do thank you, and I appreciate you all. Okay, that's the YouTube spiel out of the way. Back to you guys. First question, why the name?
Oh man, so we get this one a lot. We have kind of, as you can like kind of see around the studio, we kind of have like an old person taste in like interior decorating. Like I think we kind of decorate like probably like your grandma does, you know. And before we were a band, we've been producing and writing together for years. And so we used to just have people through to the studio, and we called it Ivy League Studio because it kind of had like this old sort of look to it, kind of classy look. And we were going to try to call it like Harvard spelled wrong Studios, but Lil Pump has that album, Harvard Dropout and Harvard spelled wrong. We're like, well, shit, he beat us to it. So,
and when I'm not doing Ivy League stuff, I do like a lot of weddings and corporate events, and oftentimes those are held at country clubs with that really kind of like, I don't know if I want to say obsolete interior decorating style. And I try to mimic it as best as I can. So,
yeah, you can even see we got like a photo of like a church on some sort of college campus. We have like, I don't know, some office building. And they're like these old sketches we found from Goodwill and a lot of stuff like that around the studio for sure.
Ideally, we'd have like all kinds of gaudy crown molding and
that
kind of stuff. But
very cool. I believe what you're calling. I believe what you mean is vintage.
Yes. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's a
intellectual.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. We're smart.
People describe it as like academic or something more big.
Right on.
Scholastic, yeah.
So our tagline, our music went to Harvard.
yes, I do like that.
But the music went to Harvard. Yeah.
That was the funny thing. It was like, they're from Chicago.
Yeah, you can tell it if we're like yelling about traffic or something. That's when it really comes out of us, you know what I mean? Or if we're talking about the Bears or something, you know.
Right on. So I want to get into kind of my usual interview questions, and Room 6 OGs and alumni know what's coming. I want to talk about your earliest musical influence, and by that I mean, do you remember a moment where you said, I want to do that?
That's a great question. You want to go first on that one, Skidster?
Yeah, I started off like really young, and truthfully, I was just really bad at sports and needed something to do as like a little kid. And I was pretty good at music. So I ended up doing a bunch of church gigs, and just over time had a bunch of people teaching me all kinds of stuff. And as time went on, it became obvious to me that that's what I needed to do for the rest of my life.
I was doing theater at a pretty young age. Like I had started like, you know, acting and being in a lot of musicals and stuff from a really young age. So like I wanted to do something in the arts and anything that isn't drawing or painting, because I'm really bad at that. So I was like, you know, I was doing theater for a long time, and I think, yeah, probably around like, you know, maybe like 7th or 8th grade, I got really into. I know this isn't necessarily a musician's favorite artist, but I love him. Ed Sheeran was doing a lot. He had just come out with like Audition, and he was doing everything with the loop pedals and was writing for a lot of other artists too. And I was like, yeah, this guy seems like the shit. You know,
You put some respect on Ed Sheeran's name, Mister.
Hey, listen, one of probably my favorite artists ever. We have obviously, we work with like a lot of indie bands and really great musicians and stuff that they're always like, oh, Ed Sheeran. I'm like, I love Ed Sheeran. Huge Ed Sheeran fan. So he was probably the first person that I saw where I was like, I want to do that specifically.
Although I'm going to be honest with you, I can't remember the last time we had someone in here that was like hating on Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, actively hating on Ed
like
Sheeran.
99%.
Right.
Are you sure you're not confusing Ed Sheeran with Nickelback?
Right.
Yeah, we have a lot of we have negative feelings for Nickelback too.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not big Nickelback folk, unfortunately. But we respect it. I like to think that we respect all artists for the most part.
The opinions of Room 6 guests are not necessarily the opinions of Room 6 or musicians everywhere. Please send your email to hate to.
Send an email or a photograph.
It's a photo of a photograph.
Know enough of the discography to be able to joke about them. You know what I mean?
I like Animals. I mean, that rocks.
Sure.
It objectively will get you. Like, that's a good
fine,
workout too.
You know.
But no, I know what you mean. It's kind of separating the art from artist,
sure,
so to speak. And if it was any other band, maybe certain songs would hit differently. But anyway, I digress. We're not here to talk about them. We're here to talk about you. Damn Canadians. Anyway, I love Canada. Don't get me wrong. Your work spans pretty much every genre, it seems like. Which is the most challenging to produce?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
I feel sorry. All the questions are good, but that's a challenging one. I feel like I don't know. We haven't done like a lot of like metal. I mean, we've both been involved like in metal projects, like you producing in like some capacity. I feel like writing for metal is like a lot of fun, but like the actual production of it is like so dense that
I can agree with you there. It's kind of like if you're trying to mix a live show with metal involved, when everybody else is like rock and roll or acoustic or something.
Yeah.
And then comes the guttural, and you're like, turn all the bass down and turn all the treble up on the mics, and
sure. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly very. We've actually worked with like a lot of metal producers in our day too. We just like, I personally, it's like such a challenge. You know what I mean? And neither of us are necessarily like insane guitarists, which I feel like a lot of metal producers, they're either insane drummers or they're insane guitarists. Like a lot of the times, one of the two. Once in a while, like a really crazy bassist too, for sure. But like usually, it's like just some insane guitar head or like drum head or something like that. And fortunately, that's just not our vibe. I don't know. Do you feel different?
I was going to jump in and say I think ultimately it comes down to like whatever we're not listening to in any capacity is difficult to produce.
Sure.
And I think that leaves us pretty open-ended because we do listen to everything except for like I don't listen to a ton of metal or ska
or Nickelback apparently,
or Nickelback. So I think like whatever our ears are not consuming is very difficult to make our music reflect.
Is there any genre in specific that you think of? No, kind of just
polka music.
Yeah, anything we don't listen to is difficult.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, write what you know, right? That's the writer's credo, so to speak. And so I've reviewed a lot of music on this channel. Pick a genre, and I've at least interviewed them, if not reviewed their music. And it suddenly becomes very clear. You're like, well, this song isn't bad. It's just not popular right now.
Sure.
But it's meeting, it for what it is. It's exactly how it should be, kind of thing. And just because you don't like a genre of music doesn't mean that music sucks. So.
Sure. I remember when I was in college, I'd spent a little bit of time down in Sao Paulo producing. And one of the big things at that time that everyone was like really upset about was there was this Japanese band that was making like funkadesi music, which is kind of like that like really big trap thing that they have going on down there right now. And I I remember like listening to it and I was like, guys, like I don't know what you're talking about. Like it sounds fine to me, but I also don't, speak Portuguese and am not necessarily totally engulfed in that sound. And they would just tell me, they're like, well, that's the weird thing about it is like nothing particularly about it is wrong, but we can tell that this wasn't produced by people in the scene because like there's just all these tiny little things and stuff in the feel and stuff where it throws us off, like Brazilians listening to it. There's a big group of young Brazilians that were, I guess, really into it, but there was a really big group of the 20-year-old and up artists that were just like not about it at all.
Interesting.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was perfect, but it just was, just something about like the feel and the taste was just, it just didn't work with them,
Right. It sounds like they were kind of feeling the Uncanny Valley, like written by AI type feeling. We're like, it's not absolutely wrong. It's just not right. Like on one of the things I've seen on TikTok, before we get too far down this rabbit hole, one of the things I've seen on TikTok lately are like clips from shows like Dexter or some other show where it's a clip from the show, and then the character starts talking in a voiceover. You're like, that was not in this clip,
right? Yeah,
and it's obviously AI, and I just always am like, why are you doing this? Like, anyway, I digress. Stick around, by the way. We're going to be seeing a music video after this for Hell Yes, which I gotta say is a total Nickelback title. But anyway, I'm not gonna let that go.
Right, I can't even fight with you on that one. Yeah.
But yeah, and again, make sure that you hit those social media links for them down in the description, so you can find out what they're up to, where they're performing live, or what they're working on for other people, and tell them Room 6 sent you. Ting! All right, Tony, a quick question for you. Can you compare and contrast, or I guess, compare and contrast Groovy Motherfunkers versus Ivy Leagues?
Oh, sure.
You just nardward.
I was gonna say, man, you just totally went down the rabbit hole.
Sean Evans is my Patronus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like astounded right now. Wow. So that was my band in college, and it was really interesting because I got to college. I'd done a lot of ghostwriting in high school, and was in like a band. I'd written like a musical and stuff. Like most of my experience was just like writing and writing and writing. And got to college. I was roommates with this Brazilian producer, Pedro Canan, who is over at Electrical Audio, which is Steve Albini's studio now, or formerly Steve Albini's studio, rest in peace. But he was my roommate. I got to college, and I was working on some song, and he just came over and was like, your drums are terrible in this. And I was like, well, okay. And then he was like, but I can make them better. And then from there, we were just like writing all the time. And we lived in a dorm. So we just had like artists coming by to our like dorm room all the time. And we're just like, people would like knock on the door and be like, hey, I got this song, or I want to make music. And we were just making music. And then the Groovy Mothers pretty quickly turned into a talent management company and a record label. Because we weren't as a band releasing that much music. We were mostly just writing it for other people, and then releasing it for them. And so we turned it pretty quickly into a label. And that was the hardest part about that band, was that it was also a label. Like even the name of the label was the Groovy Motherfunkers for a while. And we were throwing like all these like big raves and stuff. And I think to me, that was the biggest difference, was it was tons of people. I mean, it was me and this producer. It was a roster of like anywhere from like between 5 and like 9 artists. It was just a ton of moving pieces. It wasn't, we were in college, like I was going to school for music business. So like kind of learning as we went. It was just a ton of moving pieces, a ton of people, either on the company or like photographers or videographers or art directors and stuff that were coming to do work for us. And it was really not focused. It was a lot of like kind of cool music, but it was spread all over the place. And it got to a point where I really wasn't even writing that much for the Groovy Motherfunkers. I was just like, doing business stuff. And the Ivy Leagues is the result ultimately of the Groovy Motherfunkers. We ended up changing the name of the label to TGM Media. But I actually met Ed at a rave in an underground abandoned movie theater that I was throwing. And the Groovy Motherfunkers were the backing band for a whole bunch of different artists that would kind of like rotate in and out. And the band would stay the same, except one of the artists was like, no, I want my own band for it. And Ed was in that band. And I met him, and we both started kind of running the company together towards the end of college. And then from there, we were both like, damn, we work really well together. It's really hard to get artists to do the difficult things like posting all the time on social media, like sticking to a 6 to 8 week schedule. And especially with like a big band. I mean, there was like 5 people, anywhere from like 3 to 5 people in that band at all times.
Jeez.
Very difficult to get schedules to align, and, music to be released properly and content to be done. And, after a while, we were kind of, the company had to end for a few reasons, but part of it was, we just really wanted to get back to writing and producing. And the key difference to me is that this is everything that we do, our press releases, all the way up to mixing and mastering, to music videos, to content, to the website. We all do it, just the two of us. We have no manager. We have no third party. We don't even have a person that really like comes and like helps us out once in a while. It is just the two of us, and we are incredibly focused. Ed lives in this apartment unit. I live in the apartment unit literally right next door. I could walk to my place without actually having to leave the gate of our apartment. And I think it's just focus. It's focus and a love of writing. Like, even with the Groovy Motherfunkers, there was always some sort of genre agenda. And for us, we honestly just have a blast making any possible genre that you can imagine. And the band was started off that. It was, let's take our egos out of it. Let's take any personal preference we have out of it. And let's just make music that's like really fun and catchy and enjoyable, and that we have fun making. And then let's just be as focused as humanly possible. And that to me is like the massive difference between the two. The first was this huge, big, ugly, messy thing. And this is a very concise, focused team and group of people.
I mean, yeah, that is key. Like, you new musicians out there, especially, if you're not focused on it, how are you going to improve?
Sure, and focused on the bad stuff too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Focused on making music, because that's the easy stuff, or playing a fun show or whatever. But the hard stuff is posting on TikTok every day. It's writing the press releases. It's making a website. It's putting all the stuff together that like people get bored doing or just annoyed doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And funny story, you were talking about how it's kind of this fluctuating mass of people in Groovy. I fronted a cover band for 7 years. Best name I ever came up with for any act ever, Revolving Door. It was so true. It started as a 7-piece act. Okay, I was playing rhythm guitar on acoustic and singing like backup mostly, because we had a female singer, and a lot of what we sang, like Walking on Sunshine or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
She should sing it. Eventually, over time, it went down to a 4-piece, but like we went through 7 drummers and ended up back on number 2. We went, 4 keyboard players and then no keyboard player. It was just one of those things where, yeah, like Revolving Door is perfect. So, Ed, kind of the same question. Can we talk about the Black Square versus Ivy Leagues?
Yeah, well, the Black Square, I'm going to say, is very similar to Tony. To like compare and contrast it, is there was just no focus there. But that was when I was in high school, so we were just a bunch of kids, like really just figuring out what these things called instruments in our hands were. And of course, it was a lot of fun. Those were some of my best buddies at the time, and just over time, we grew up and went our separate ways a little bit.
We revamped it too at one point.
Yeah, we did try, Tony and I, to like start releasing music under that same name, because it had already had some halfway decent followings, and we kind of wanted to make similar music. So we were like, let's get a head start on it. But I don't think people really were into it. People being consumers of music.
Understood. Sticking with Ed, before I go back to Tony, can we talk about your biggest lesson from Maggie Speaks? And what is Maggie Speaks, or what was Maggie Speaks?
Yeah, Maggie Speaks. It's corporate music, basically. So we do corporate events, weddings, private parties, all that stuff. Most of it is here in town in Chicagoland. We do travel every now and again. I'd say the biggest lesson I've learned from it is it's gonna sound kind of like dark for an interview, but you got to always be watching your back in the music business. Nothing is secure. No one's looking out for you. It's hostile out here.
Contracts.
I can't really get into too much more than that, but like,
It's all
you're
good.
never safe.
No, that's yeah. It's I mean, it's a music business, and business needs to you need to cover all the business angles.
Yep,
So
there's a lot of people out there who are looking to make money, myself included. You know what I mean? That's why I'm there doing weddings, and everyone's looking out for their own bottom dollar, and that's totally understandable. But don't get comfy.
right, and you're only as good as your last gig.
Yep. Indeed.
So Tony, again, kind of the same question. What's your biggest lesson from LTTV?
Oh, geez.
Damn.
Wow. Yeah. Sorry. No one ever researches us this well, man. This is so nice.
This is like, I live for this moment.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. Wow. Yeah, LTTV was insane. That was my high school television department, and it was led by this maven. Is really the only word I can use to describe him. Bill Allen.
Good use of the word, by the way. Nobody uses maven.
Well, I'm gonna get to it here in a second. Part of how we funded the station was with D&D. Bill was huge in the D&D scene, and so he started this channel called D&D with high school students that I was a part of. I was Cademan. I was a Forest Gnome Bard. For any nerds out there, but the whole point was it was supposed to be a bunch of people that didn't understand D&D and they were learning it, and people got really into it. And to support the club, we would go and shoot Gen Con, which is like the biggest fantasy D&D convention in the world from what I know. And then we were the media crew for that. And we were also the media crew for Gary Con, which is a little bit smaller, but it's like the convention that's founded around the creator of D&D's hometown and like his scene and stuff. But it was, I mean, there are, God, so many lessons that I learned from being in there. I mean, he taught all of us how to be directors, not just in a way that like, this is how you turn on the camera, these are movies you should watch, but like the true meaning of like, directing media of like, hey, make sure the lighting's good, right? Make sure that, the people are in focus. People will always excuse bad film, but they'll never excuse bad audio.
Yes.
Yeah, and like literally, like I use the lessons I learned from that club every single day in my life. Every single time we make a TikTok, every single time we, I used to like when we were throwing our huge like raves and stuff, I would sit there with the photographers and I'd be like, you need to find the angles, you need to find the shots where there are huge crowds, and like I don't want to see any empty space. I don't want you to have the merch table in the back of the shot. I'm like, I want it to be people in the band right out above them or in front of them, and I mean we use it literally every single day. I mean I know that's not even an answer to your question, but like just
no, that's super important. Like when I go to live shows for the channel and review them, and part of it is I take photos and video clips, and I am there at the front of the stage, or if there's a crowd, I am doing exactly what you said. I'm not getting the merch tables. There is nothing that saddens me more than when a band posts some pictures from a show and it's empty in front of the stage, because
it's empty in front of the stage.
And you're like, what are you doing?
What's sad too about it is I've seen bands with a few things. Either a really good band photographer that's taking really like photos like you described with like that merch table and stuff. I've also seen bands with big crowds that aren't reflected in the photography, where it's like there's this huge crowd on the left side of the stage and they're shooting everything from the right side of the stage where someone just threw up and there's like nobody standing there. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's, to me, it's stuff where I'm like, this should be obvious. This should be inherent. but it's really because like we'd film football games or even D&D conventions where they're talking about dice rolling for 3.5 hours. And like Bill would be sitting there like, get the angle, get that person over there who's really interested. Hey, that the guy who's been talking about why 6-sided dice are better than 8-sided dice is getting a little sweaty. Let's go ahead and shift over to the other person so that he can, clean up a little bit and just stuff where it's like I use it every single day. And two, not to brag, technically I'm an award-winning director from high school. I haven't done, anything. Yeah, I know, the San Filippo Silent Film Festival. But I used that for years for marketing in my like resume and stuff.
Oh, hell yeah.
Look, I won this, film festival. It was a pretty big deal. And, and he was always like that, giving us.
No one says award winning has to be more than one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, what always kind of, I'm always impressed when I'm at a live show and like, whether it's metal, whether it's, emo or something where maybe moshing's going to happen. But for some reason, the crowd will do this horseshoe thing and it's empty right in front of the stage. And any act that says, hey, come on up to the stage, everybody, you're instantly like, boom, you instantly look cooler and you sound cooler.
Right.
And
it'll make your photos look better.
And it's like you just made my job easier and you're gonna look better. Good job. And I never understood why crowds will do this horseshoe thing, because nobody wants to stand right. Why? You
no one wants to get up front. No one wants to make eye contact.
People are, it's on the same level as I paid money just to come for the set of the band I'm there to see, and then I left.
Right.
And I showed up exactly when their set started instead of at the beginning of the show, and because they were the middle act or whatever. And I've seen this so many, especially at metal shows. I've seen this where their set's about to start. All of a sudden, there's about 30 more people, all with their shirts or their hats or whatever. And then when the set's done, they're gone. And I'm like, I'd be pissed if I was the band that performed, but I'd really be pissed if I was the headliners.
Right. 100%. Well, and I'll say this too. I mean, I feel like a lot of musicians, and I'll go ahead and include ourselves in this too. We're introverts, right? We like to share our art, but we get nervous when it comes to seeing all those people. And I think a lot of bands underestimate, like I think in their head, they're like, oh, I look really confident on stage. I look really cool. But then you watch their sets or, you see that video back and it's like, no, you were quiet the whole time. You weren't getting the crowd to come forward. And it's not even just getting the crowd to come forward. It's getting them to participate in a chorus. It's getting them to put their hands up for a second. You know what I mean? Because you want all of those, Instagrammable, TikTokable, websiteable moments of, people just like having a blast, throwing their hands up, doing fun stuff. But you're not going to get that if you're not the one facilitating it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. It's always more fun to watch an act that's having fun on stage. And it can be 2 people or 2,000.
Right.
If they bring the energy, you're going to bring the energy as an audience member. And again, it all just, what's the word? You give what you get.
Yeah.
No, you get what you give. There you go. All right. So stick around. We have a couple more questions. Then we're going to see that music video for Hell Yes from the Ivy Leagues. I want to switch over to one of my more usual questions. I want to talk about your favorite, most memorable show memory performing as the Ivy Leagues. And it could be one where you checked off some rock star wish list thing, or things went way off the rails. Just what do you have that you're at a party and you pull out this one time story?
Okay, well, I'll say this. As far as the Ivy Leagues go, we started releasing music last July. So we have only been the Ivy Leagues for a year. Having said that, because of how busy we are in the studio, and we're working on changing this right now. We've only done 2 shows as the Ivy League so far. One of them was a super small, teeny tiny show, Underground Lounge. It's in like Wrigleyville, which is a big neighborhood here. And the second, we just played like last week, and it was this guy that makes, and very successfully so, makes visualizers out of hot dogs. So like,
I'm sorry, what?
So the music is playing, right? Like, let's just say there's a song, and there's these hot dogs graphics that like dance along to the music. and then like Relish will come on, and it kind of
Gotcha.
looks like you can see the Sinny Soda waves kind of bouncing about and moving.
Kind of like Let's All Go to the Lobby. You
I don't
remember?
know.
I don't know. You're not that old.
Sorry, I was like, I don't know, but it is
You
just
see, kids, movie theaters used to have these things called intermissions.
and they would do stuff.
What they do, it was you can find it online, but it was there'd be like a popcorn bucket with legs and a face. There'd be a hot dog. There'd be a soda cup, and they'd be like, "Let's all go to the lobby."
Oh.
Walking across, let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby and have ourselves a snack. And it was a way to like get up, go spend more money here,
Sure.
and come back, and we're gonna take an intermission because they had to physically change the reels on the machines.
But in this case, the intermission is the entire.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
Right, which is great. So this guy, and he for his day job, he's like a producer for like television commercials, like very smart individual, and he's blown up on like Instagram and TikTok all the time. He's got like 40,000, 50,000 followers on TikTok, like cool like 20K on Instagram, something like that. And he's only been up and operational, it seems, for what, less than a year. He couldn't be around longer than we have. And Ed was actually doing a moving gig at one point. And he had just like the guy he was moving the house for was he was just like a friend of the guy at the house. So they struck up a conversation. And then at one point he was like, "Hey, I'm taking all the visuals and I want to do a live show with them. So I want I'm going to have 2 bands and then 3 comedians. And I want you guys to play a 40-minute set. And then in the background, there are going to be hot dogs that move with your guys' sound." So already super memorable experience. Also crazy that that's our second gig as
Son of a bitch, I'm in.
For me, the most memorable experience of it is we wrote a hot dog song for the show to open the show. And so the song starts with, and we wrote it like maybe like 40 minutes. Like but it was pretty good. So it starts with like, 40-minute or like a minute long intro of like kind of copying like the Alien shows on like the History Channel. So it's like, this hot dog, the wiener has been floating through space for a billion years. And then,
Nice.
buns started to crawl out of the ocean and blah, blah, blah. And then finally they connect. And then when they connect, the song starts. It was just me like rapping like some like really like, it was like, when I say hot, you say dog, hot
Dog.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the crowd went nuts. So, because what was strange about it was we're a very like poppy, like get up and like very catchy band. And the band that played before us was like a very, very talented, but like jazz trio. They were just kind of like playing standards and a couple of stuff that they had written. And like, they talked into the microphone like twice, just like, "Hey guys, like, thanks for being here," and blah, blah. And I think the audience thought we might be similar to that vibe. And just to see the complete shock over this room of like, because everyone there was like a little older than us. They're all like millennials. And so we're like looking out and it's just like this room full of millennials that are just like, what is going on? And like half of the crowd was like so stoked for it. And the other half of the crowd was like, we don't even know what to do with this right now. And like, that's what I live for like live shows where it is either excitement or confusion or both. And it was incredible, especially getting that whole crowd going, dog, was a blast. It was so much fun.
That sounds amazing. I wish I could have been there because that definitely is like, well, you hear that, right?
Yeah, I'm like trying to explain it to my parents. They're like, "Oh, you did a show?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a bunch of hot dogs. They're all moving on the stage." Like, "Oh, that's nice."
We were throwing hot dogs in the crowd.
Right, well, we thought about it. We were like, "Do we get buns?" Like, we're like, we don't know how big the crowd's gonna be.
All it takes is one vegan to get smacked in the face with a wiener.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we were like, I'm like, I don't want to make it hard for the venue too. I'm like, so we'll keep it easy, but we are gonna make a hot dog.
We did seriously consider throwing hot dogs into the crowd.
Hot dog confetti.
Yeah, right. That's what we should have looked into.
Spreading hot dog bits.
We were like, would it be? We were like debating because we're like, we this is our second show, so we probably want to use a lot of the media from this for like, just our EPK, and we're trying to play more shows and stuff now. But we were like, so we didn't do it for that reason, but we're also very, very strongly considering getting a ketchup and mustard outfit off of like Amazon and then just like
Of
running
course
on.
you are. Yeah,
Yeah, so we had
that's
fun. I don't know,
hilarious.
what's your most memorable 2 live shows experience?
What's the name of that hot dog guy?
Hot dog.
Yeah, I think
Really?
I think there's an underscore in there
Shout
somewhere.
out to hot dog.
I'll look
All
for
right.
it while Ed's talking.
That's hilarious. All right.
Go ahead, Skip.
So, all right, one more question. Last question. You made it. Yay! And then we're gonna check out that music video for Hell Yes. That's actually I lied. Second question just popped in my head. Who actually was the lyric "You put kimchi on your pizza" about a real person?
I don't think so.
No, it was totally fabricated.
Wow.
We were actually, well, you were the one who thought of it, Skins.
Yeah, we were just kind of sitting around and thinking about just like the mood of the song, and
I kinda like it.
yeah, I was considering just like a little bit of like a quirky love story and being with your partner and getting interested in trying and all the doing like the random things that
Right.
you do, because everyone has like some weird oddity to themselves.
Yeah. No, especially with pizza.
Right.
I was singing that line walking through my house, and my wife and kid both went, "What? Why?"
We've had a lot of that. Well, we've either had people go, "Why would you put kimchi on pizza?" Or people go, "I've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
I'm so glad someone has finally talked about it because, like no one knows how good it is." Be honest with you, I'm allergic to kimchi, so I can't try kimchi and pizza. But at some point, we'll have to make like Ed try it or something. And
I didn't like it.
There's a place by us that puts kimchi on burgers.
I have heard of kimchi used in like tacos and burgers and
Yeah.
things. Never pizza.
Pizza was the oddity. Well, because we were working on that verse and we'd rewritten the first verse because we had that line that starts the song, which is like, "We go streaking while it's pouring," like in the Notebook. And originally we had something like really basic. It was like we run wild through the moonlight. I kind of like it or something. And I was like sitting there trying to write the second verse, and I was like, "Oh, we should do this, and then we're gonna have to change the second line to get it to rhyme." But now we don't have a second verse. And Ed was like, "Oh, I think you thought of the yoga one too, because the first line of that second verse is, you watch Bob Ross and do yoga. I just might try it," or maybe that's the second line. And then we were like, "Whoa, that's great." And Ed was like, "Oh, you know what? Let's talk about putting kimchi on pizza because they do that with burgers." And we were like, "Yeah."
That the Bob Ross yoga line totally reminded me of the Train lyric of listening to Mozart while doing Taibo.
What is that? Is that Hey Soul Sister, or is that?
Yeah, that.
I was like, or maybe it's Teardrop.
Does Taibo stop it? I don't know, but we don't have the rights to that. So
Yeah, I was gonna say.
all right, last question. Here we go. You did make it, and we're circling back to that earliest musical influence question. And we're going to jump in our time machine and go talk to little you that said, "I want to do that." And this grew out of a question I used to ask a bit of all my prey, which was, we're going to talk to the new musicians. And then it occurred to me, I was like, no, let's talk to little you. What is one thing that you wish you could go back and tell yourself, "Hey, kid, you're going to need to know this." And don't say change your strings.
Yeah, listen up, bass players. You got to be changing your strings.
They're only $400 a set, whatever.
At least like once a year. You know what I mean? You don't just leave them on there until you die.
Now listen here, you little shit.
Yeah.
I said don't change your strings.
I wish I could tell myself to get more into writing and production earlier. Because when I started, I just wanted to be a bass player and, be a side man, as some people call it. And that's great, but there's more. There's more out there. I think I was selling myself short for many years.
I think I have kind of a little bit of the opposite, where like I was like, no, I'm gonna be a rock star. Like I'm gonna be a rock star, or I'm gonna be, just a ghostwriter for the rest of my life, and like, or just a writer. And I kind of, because of that, was like, okay, well, I don't need to get really good at guitar because, like, I'm just going to be the front man and sing, and I'm going to have this 15-year-old voice for the rest of my life that can hit all the high notes and, you know, all this crazy stuff. My voice hasn't dropped, but it's not going to. It's going to stay the same. I tell myself, hey, doubling down on that, stop smoking cigarettes and like vaping. You don't need it. It's super expensive hobby. Sorry, any of the young ones out there. I know I've been hitting my vape the whole time. Cannot tell you strongly enough. Don't do it. Don't start. It's such a time waster. It's going to dehydrate you all the time. Your voice is going to start getting rough over the years, you know. Going to start sounding like a, 40-year-old accountant by the time you're like 20, you know. And I would have told myself that, and then more importantly than all of that, and this is what we tell artists all the time, because we have a lot of artists who come through. We have a lot of artists that come through where it's not their first time around, the band. It's not their first rodeo. We have a lot of artists come through that are just starting though, and they're always asking us, what should my next steps be? Oh, how often should I be getting booked at shows? Blah blah. And I'm like, all that stuff's great, but like none of that matters if you are not like living on like social media. Like, I wish I could go back in time and like grab myself by both shoulders and be like, don't waste time as much on long form content. No one wants to hear the full 3-minute cover of like Bob Dylan. They want to hear 15 seconds of it. They, get on social media, start blogging, start showing your songs off to people. Because, when you're young, and especially in my head, I was like, no, I'm going to walk into some venue. I'm going to play my song. And there's going to be a record exec from Sony who's there who's going to hear me and go, kid, you got it. Someone sign him up for $1 million contract and send him out to LA. And it's like, that's not how it works. You need to be on social media every single, especially when you're young and you're like hip and you know what's going on. Like, now we're 24. I feel old sometimes when I'm on social media, or I have younger brothers. They're always like, oh, you don't know about this? That sucks, dude. Like, you're so old and out of touch. And like, I wish I could have been on social. I wish I could have garnered that following earlier. I wish I could have, reached out more and done more stuff. And
doubling
God,
down
if I
on
could
it
turn
too,
back
like
time,
building your brand, building your identity. Be really, 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 really aware of it.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to post and post all the time. You know what I mean? God, I wish I could have gone. If I could turn back time, that would have been the first thing I would have done. I would have been like, hey, stop playing, 40 shows a month in like these tiny venues that no one is coming to see you play in, and get on social. Spend at least half that time playing, because shows are still important. I'm not saying shows aren't important, but like spend at least half that time on social media so people actually show up to the shows. So you're not playing to 3 people. You know what I mean? Because ultimately it's on you. So. That's my
I couldn't say it any better. I mean, especially lately with acts like Chappelle Roan, building up the audience before performing and things like that.
Sure, or Noah Khan, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
Everybody's doing it. All the kids are doing it,
All the kids are doing it. Yeah. I couldn't say it any better. So there you go. And you new musicians out there, especially, don't be afraid to promote yourself. I mean, obviously, practice, but live shows will happen. They'll come. Worry more about building a community that wants to come see you. That is something that no one can tell you other than here's what works for me. It is because it's going to be different for everybody. Live streams, even if it's just I'm hanging out doing Sudoku or whatever. If you do live streams regularly, hopefully you're performing your music. Maybe hey, thanks for being on live stream. Here's a new song we're working on. Tell us what you think.
Sure.
It really gets them engaged, especially during quarantine. I know acts that went from making a living doing live shows, whether cover or original or both, to making a living, like paying their rent with live streams, just money that people were willing to give them that way. And now they've got both going at the same time now because quarantine ended. So yep.
Well, I'll say this too. Just a little full circle-y. I can say this for the Groove Mother Funkers. My freshman year of college is when COVID happened. So that first half of the year, we were kids just pointing at a building, throwing a rave there, playing all this music, all these huge crowds. When COVID happened, that's when everything started to fall apart because like we didn't have another game plan. And we kept waiting on like, you know, the everything to open back up. At first we were like, oh, it's only going to be 3 months and then we'll be back. And the longer it got, the people who adapted quickly were the people that grew, and it grew quickly. And as far as live streams go and people giving you, you know, money and stuff to support your art, Bill Allen from LTTV, again, part of how we kept that studio and that club as awesome as it was is because taught us at a young age, like get on live streams, answer comments, talk to people, start a Patreon if you know that's your vibe, and get people to give you money for your art. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to afford it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of musicians are like, no, I'm not going to ask for money. I'm not going to blah blah. And it's like, no, you should though. You know, you're providing a service. You're an artist. You know.
Do you like to eat?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being on the channel, guys. Thank you for watching. And stick around. We're going to see that music video for Hell Yes. And then we'll be catching you in the outro. So in the meantime, we'll temporarily say goodbye. And we'll see you in a minute.
I lay alone in the dark. Can't stop myself from just shivering. If you don't love me, then start and stop the lies. Many on my mind. That stress has got a price. Play with you every night. Days come on, screaming. We toss and turn at the start. Now it's past 4, you're still whispering. Didn't think we'd make it this far. Hypnotist sent the whippoorwills, saying that you notice me. I tell her I'm leaving you behind tonight. God, can't you spare me? Sweet relief, it makes me scream a melody like
I want to thank the Ivy Leagues for coming on the channel. It was a great interview and an awesome music video. Make sure you hit those social media links down below, find out what they're up to, and hopefully go see them live and tell them I sent you. In the meantime, if you want to see more videos like this, please click up here. If you want to subscribe, click over there. You don't have to ring the bell. You can say none if you want on the notifications, but it really does help the channel to subscribe. And if you want to hear my own music, click over there. No hot dogs included. Remember to be amazing, and we'll see you next time on Room 6. Say goodbye, guys.